want to earn more? Work less and enjoy what you do each day. It's no secret, it can be done. This podcast with Dr. T will not only educate and inspire you, it will also teach you how to do more and be more with the time you already have. It will be like a shot of adrenaline straight into the heart of your business. Here is your host, Tyson Franklin.
Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of It's No Secret with Dr. T. With me today is Leticia Moran. Now, Leticia has a company called Leticia Moran Creative, and she's a graphic designer specialising in everything print related, like logos, branding, and that's what we're going to talk about today, is about graphic design. So, Leticia, how are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you, Tyson. Thanks for having me on the show.
And this is your first podcast interview you've ever been on.
It is, yes. Thank you. I'm a little bit nervous, but feeling very honoured to be asked to be on it. So I'm looking forward to having a chat with you.
Well, here's the good thing about being on podcasting or being on someone's podcast is if you do a good job here, you know that, and don't worry, by the time I finish, you are going to, I already know, you know your stuff so well, which is why all my logos for the last probably more than 5 years now, you've been putting them together for me.
That's
so right
yeah.
through from the It's No Secret with Dr. T to the Podiatry Legends to the 365-hour challenge, my Pro Arch Podiatry Advisor. So it's been going on, probably well over 5 years now.
Yeah, it's been about that long, yep.
But the good part is when we finish today, other people will listen to this podcast. One, they're going to learn a lot, but I think you'll find you get invited to be a guest on a lot of other shows because I've listened to hundreds of podcasts and I haven't heard of any graphic designers on yet.
Okay, so, all right. Well, fingers crossed I'll do a good job.
I think you will because you're sounding good, which is really, really important. So before we get started, what is it you actually do? I know what you do, but explain to people what you do.
Okay, well, I'm a graphic designer, which I guess is a very broad term for some people, and a lot of people don't know what that is. But I'm a graphic designer that specialises in everything print related. I've been in the industry for about 4 years now, and I specialise in a lot of print related, mainly corporate projects and clients, from logos to branding, and then all the other pieces of collateral that follow on from that, whether it be stationery, brochures, reports, and I guess in this day and age as well, it does overlap with web. So that may be other web banners, email signatures, and quite often static web pages.
So what's the difference then between somebody coming to see you and somebody who jumps on Canva or tries to do everything themselves just on their home computer? Because that's what I used to do up until working with you. I'd try and do everything myself because I was trying to save money, but the amount of time it used to take me to get something right used to almost kill me.
Yes, and I guess that is a big thing is you can jump on any of those programs and do your own design, and that's fine if that works for you. But I think what also comes into play, like you say, is the amount of time it may take someone. Like I studied and trained for 3 years and got the understanding about the industry and how print works and artwork. So I guess is the years I've spent learning and training to be a graphic designer. And that is why some of the jobs that I do are jobs that are second nature to me. So I do them day in and day out. I have all those years of experience, and it will save you money by the time that you're going to save. You could be doing something else which you're better at. And yes, I guess as well, once you meet with me, it becomes a bit of a relationship and a bit of a journey where I can look at your business, get to know about what your business is about, what the products are about, and probe you for questions that you may or may not know. And that kind of helps then develop the direction that you're going to take your business in.
Yeah, and you've probed me a couple of times, which has been fun. But probing in a good way. So have you found your industry has suffered a lot because of a lot of the online platforms now, like Fiverr, and there's a ton of them. Has that tuned into what you used to do, or do you find your clients stick with you because the quality of the work you do is so much better?
I find personally it hasn't influenced myself too much, because the clients I have value my expertise and the time I take and what I do with their jobs and their projects. But I do think as a whole, it probably has impacted the industry, which I think a lot of the internet and technology has, because there are a lot of things that you can do yourself these days. I mean, websites are another example. There's lots of websites you can jump on and use templates without going to a professional who may have the professional coding and the back end and the search engine devices that may be beneficial for your business. So it hasn't directly affected me, but I can see it would for some.
Or probably some of the smaller places that were just doing, like fiddly little work, like
Yes.
a program like Canva, for example, is so simple to jump on there. When I put together like artwork for each of my shows, it's easy just to throw a logo, which you've done for me, and I put it on top of a photograph. But to actually get that logo in the first place, that's the part. And I can see the difference between a business that has used someone professionally to design something compared to businesses that haven't. I reckon it's as clear as night and day sometimes.
It is. And I think it's that investment that you have. Like, it can be an initial outlay compared to doing it yourself, but to get that kind of professional, smart brand across, you want to, portray your business for what it is. You want to be professional. You want it to be really clear to your clients and to the public what your product or your service is. You don't want there to be any miscommunication. So I think you need clear communication with your logo, and the branding is really important because all the pieces that follow, again, I guess as a professional graphic designer, is having someone like me keeping all that in check, making sure everything matches, everything's consistent. Otherwise your brand can start to kind of fall apart when it's not consistent.
Yeah, well, even slight colour changes, like with a lot of my logos and all the businesses I've had, I tend to use the same colours.
Yes.
I blend, like Barcelona red, but it's got a funny number to it, and the grey and a lighter grey and a white, and I use them in different ways and for different reasons, but I'm consistent with everything I'm doing. That red colour seems to come through with nearly everything I do, and by working with you, at least I know it's always right. When I want something new done, I go, same colours, but this is what I'm thinking, and then you throw it together.
That's right. So you can have like your main brand, and then you can have lots of sub-brands or different kind of projects that you have, but it's all consistent. And for you, it's the colours, it's your font style. So just subconsciously, when anyone looks at it, they will always relate that to you. Yeah,
and that's important what you just said then, the font. Using the same font and being consistent with the font. And I remember way back when I was franchising and had Pro Arch Podiatry, and I set that up and had the logo and all that done. I cannot remember how I initially got the logo done. It was probably something I scribbled down on a piece of paper and had a printer put it together for me and went, yep, that's my logo. But I didn't get a logo. I didn't get a logo suite with it. So there was no color codes. There was no font code. It was just a logo. Yes. Now, what happened, and I learnt through a lot of headaches, was somebody, say down in Townsville, for example, would open up a podiatry clinic, and all of a sudden they got the logo done and it was completely different to mine. Like, it was structurally the same, but the font was different and a lot of other elements about it. The colours weren't quite right. So I looked at it and I went, that logo's just completely wrong. And they've gone, well, we just gave... And what it was is they gave their printer a copy of the logo and they then redrew the logo based on what they thought, not based... So can you explain what a logo suite is, the colour suite, what that's all about?
Yeah. So basically when the logo gets designed, obviously through research and exploring what the end objective is and developing some rules around, like you're saying, like the logo fonts, the logo colours, is I would then develop a suite, a logo suite, and the logo would have to be replicated in various formats to make it kind of user-friendly across lots of mediums. So whether it's a landscape logo or portrait logo, whether it's in full colour, one colour being black or black or white, how it would work at different sizes. A good logo, I was always taught at uni, a good logo should be able to be viewed at the size of a button, to be clear and still represented. So I guess the logo suite would have all those different file types in it on how the logo would be represented in its different formats. It would then be saved out to be, again, user-friendly, whether it's vector files such as EPSs, PDFs, then for the web, PNG files, JPEGs. That way I can give my client a whole suite that they can walk away with, that they've invested in, to know that their brand is contained in one folder with all the different styles of fonts, where there'll be a style guide which outlines the colours used. And in those colours would be the PMS colours, the CMYK colours for printing, the colours for web. So the colours used within that logo keep that brand consistent, whether it's printed on a billboard sign, vehicle signage, a business card, or a website. Wherever you will see that colour, it will always be consistent. And within that will be a list of the fonts used. Whether the logo has a feature font that may not be used in other pieces of collateral like brochures, would be outlined a suggested font to use.
Yeah.
So whoever picks up the job, because a client may move, may change designers, may take on some of the projects themselves, they at least know they have everything, they're well equipped to go, and their brand's kind of in order.
Well, it has made my life a lot easier when I go to the printers now and I want something done, and I just email across the logo suite. It has everything basically there. They don't have to ask me, oh, what's the colour numbers? Are you sure it's this colour? And if they get it wrong, then I can complain about it quite easily. Because say, well, not that my printers get it wrong, because my printers get it right, because they know what they're doing. So Scott and Carey, if you're listening, I know that you get it right. But the other part I thought was really interesting is when you said the logo, when it, as you were taught, that when it's like button size, you can still actually read it. And I think that's really important, because I've seen some logos where, when they're really big and they're really colourful, but when they're shrunk down, and they might be sponsoring an event, and they might be one of 15 sponsors, and they're in a like a quarter page ad in the paper, and by the time they shrink their logo down, it just looks like a blob.
Yes. Yeah, and that can be a huge mistake and damage to your brand, because you want your logo to be seen, to be recognised, and you want that reputation and that professionalism behind them. And having a logo that doesn't reproduce well, or you can't see, it's very detrimental to the brand and to your product.
So when you're designing, say, a logo with a company, do you offer these suggestions to them? This is part of the education that you give that someone won't get on Fiverr.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that's right. And I will sit down and we'll talk about it, explain the benefits of doing all this. Plus also the process we'll go through is when I have an initial meeting with the client as well, I have I've developed like a checklist, if you like, specifically for logos. That's usually where a lot of jobs start, and then everything will follow after. And through that, we'll be probing questions that might seem really obvious, like the company name, the tagline. Quite often I'll meet with someone and they know their name, but they're like, oh, a tagline, do I need a tagline? And it's like, well, a tagline often reinforces what the product is. And sometimes they are unclear on that, so I'll either help them with that. Sometimes I might work with a copywriter to really define and refine what their messaging is going to be. I'll also go through questions like their target audience, what their target audience is in terms of age groups and genders, what their products are. Their competition is also really important that I like to look at. Obviously, you don't want to go and replicate something exactly the same.
That's a really good point. That is a great point. that somebody that's on the other side of the world, who might be charging you $25 to do a logo, they have no idea that the guy down the road has similar colours, or there's something about their logo which is very, or they might even be just taking a logo that's similar to someone from another country you don't even know about, and you potentially could be infringing on somebody else's copyright.
That's right. Yep, this is true. And also in this day and age, just as you have the Fiverr and the Canva, you know, we've got stock imagery sites as well. So again, it's very easy for people at very little cost or no cost to just go and, you know, take an illustration and add some text to it. And, you know, you have a logo, which is great, but it is questionable then about its originality and is it infringing on anyone else's, you know, product. So I guess that's part, as I said, a part of the service as well. And I find it helps my clients really think about their brand, and also helps me kind of delve into more about what their business is. Because a lot of my clients can range from health to hospitality to, you know, professional corporates. So it's quite varied. None of my clients are the same. So I really have to get inside their head to understand what their products are or what their services are, so I can help them the best way I can.
Okay, so like I know when we did my numerous number of logos over the years, and we sat down one-on-one and we discussed it. Do you do much work with people out of town, just, you know, talking to them over Skype or online? Yes,
I do. So I have quite a few clients locally, but I also have quite a lot of clients nationally. And a lot of them I deal with either by email, phone, or Zoom. And as I said, because I have the forms and everything set up, if I can't meet with them personally, I can email them, we can sit down and we can discuss all the points that we need to talk about. So I guess technology hasn't limited my clients, because, to be fair, I have quite a few clients kind of scattered around, and I find dealing with them with technology today is no problem at all. And I think it's one of those things, once you kind of develop a rapport and, you know, they know you, they like you, and they trust you, I find that the jobs flow quite easily, and then that's where the repeat business also comes on. So then I kind of really look after their brand from beginning to ongoing.
Well, I must admit, each time I've needed something done and I hand it over to you, I feel really, really confident that it's actually going to get done.
Yep.
So while we're on that subject of that you can work with people not just locally in Cairns, but also around the country and probably around the world, which hopefully, if anyone's listening to this and you're looking for a graphic designer and you're thinking, I want someone human that I can actually interact with, Leticia is the person you need to contact. How are all the ways that people can get hold of you and stalk you at night while you're sleeping?
All right. Well, that's scary. No, it's quite easy. You can find me on email, which is leticia@lmcreative.com.au. And the other way is on LinkedIn. You can also connect with me there. And they're probably the two best ways.
So on LinkedIn, you're just Leticia Moran?
Yes, Leticia. Yeah, that's right. Leticia Moran on LinkedIn. Yep, I'm really easy to find. If you do go looking, I don't have a website.
Shame on you.
I know. Which is, it's kind of, it does seem a bit quite contradictory that I don't. I don't have one for a number of reasons, but I will be getting one soon. Up until this point, it kind of, a lot of my work is word of mouth and referral. And at the capacity I work, because all my work is one-on-one with clients as well. And I guess that is the personal kind of interaction I have with my clients. So I only have so much capacity. So to this point, I've kind of, it's been how it's worked well for me. And when I do get a new client or have someone approach me, I do have a portfolio as well that I will take and sit down and go through clients. So obviously they can see my scope of work, and I do have that kind of backup of the types of works I do.
Well, that's how I chose you, was because when I first spoke to you, I think you may have sent me an email actually with a list of different companies you had worked with and some of the logos you had done, and I saw Bee's Knees,
Oh, yes.
the beer.
Yep.
And I went, well, I'll tell you right now, if you're good enough to do the logo for Bee's Knees Beer, which is a beautiful beer, I thought, you're good enough for me. So that must have been great doing something for a company that big.
Yeah, it was amazing. And at that time, I lived in Brisbane, and I worked for an amazing company called Cuts Creative. And at that time, we had Bee's Knees, which was part of the Matilda Brewing Company before it got sold to the larger company. And it was amazing. Bee's Knees was a really fun project. It was one of their first beers, and obviously took off. It did really well for them, which is why it's become so commercial. But yeah, that was a really fun project, really good client. And it just goes to show as well, corporate clients as well, that they can also have quite a bit of room to move with the creativity. There wasn't a really strict brief with that job.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a really fun project.
But I think going back to a comparison of like using Fiverr or using someone like yourself, I think there's probably a market there. Well, obviously, there's a market there for Fiverr, or it wouldn't be as successful as what it is. So someone wants something really basic done. I need this whacked together, $25, and it's done.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, when big corporate companies are actually using graphic designers to actually do everything for them, it sort of lets you know the difference in the stand between what you possibly could get on Fiverr and actually dealing with a professional.
Yes, that's right. And I think you have to give respect to your product and to your business as well. As I was saying, how it's represented and also how it's going to be used ongoing.
But I suppose it's like they say, horses for courses. There'd be certain people, like say dentistry, for example. Some people will go overseas, go to Thailand and something like that to get all their dental work done because it's cheaper, and some of them get really good results. And then some people hear some really scary stories.
Yes.
Other people will go, you know what, I would rather pay triple and get it done here in Australia for for multiple reasons.
Yes.
I know people have gone overseas and had a lot of tattooing done. And there's other people I know who've got a lot of tattoos who go, there's no way I'd ever get it done overseas. I don't mind paying more. So I suppose it's everybody's different. So there's always going to be that market for yourself that they want to deal with somebody that is over and above what they can get on Fiverr.
That's right. And I also think it's just the extra mile that I can go to offer in my service as well, which I find is why my clients kind of stay with me or keep coming back. And I have had quite a couple of clients from down south, one from Melbourne and one from Sydney, that did go down the Fiverr route and Canva route, and it didn't work out so well for them. And I really appreciated their honesty, telling me, look, this is what we've done. I thought this would be, the best way, more economical, it would be quicker, but it's been a disaster. It's damaged my brand. I need, to build my reputation. So I'm like, no problems. And I can take it from there. So there is different people. And I guess it's what your end outcome is and what your expectation and the value that you put on your product or service.
Yeah, well, I must admit my last logo that you did for me just recently, which was the Podiatry Legends podcast. Yeah. And I think I showed you something that I had done up beforehand.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the thing is, I wanted to see, okay, if I used Fiverr or something similar and just without doing the same thing, what could they put together? And everything they put together for me was rubbish. I didn't like any of it. There was miscommunication. So it's not saying that I've had people on Fiverr do some 3D graphics for me, some videos and for introductions for videos. And they've been beautiful. I've really, really been happy with it. But they've actually used logos that you've created for me to then turn it into that image, not just gone from scratch, hey, can you design a logo, and then turn it into a 3D video.
Yes, yep.
So it is one of those things where people should probably work with a professional to get a really professional logo suite done, and then if they want to use it in Fiverr for other things, they can probably do it that way.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
So if somebody's listening to this today and they're going, okay, I've tried Fiverr, I've done a little bit on Canva myself, and it looks okay, but I do think I need to get a bit of a professional overhaul on my business. So say, for example, I'll say podiatry. Say it was a podiatry business because I understand what's involved in that, or it could be a dental clinic, or it could be an accounting firm. And they've gone, I think I do need an overhaul. What's the first step that they do? Do they just ring you and say, "Hi, I'm Bob. I'm Bob the accountant, and I need help. Can you come and see me?" Or what's the first thing of engagement?
Yep. So that is one way that people contact me. They call me and go, "Help! I need a logo done." Sometimes and there's two different types of clients as well. One can be I'm starting a new business, and I will go, okay. I will set up an initial meeting because I always like to meet like face to face, particularly an initial meeting. I think people like to engage as well.
Yeah.
So I think when they're starting a new business, obviously we're going from scratch. Quite often they have no preconceived ideas or thoughts, which sometimes can make it quite challenging for me, which is why I find my logo briefing sheet really comes into play and helps to try and nut out and form a creative brief from the client about, some type of direction that they may be thinking, or that their likes and dislikes, which is really important because obviously when you design a logo, it can go in a million different directions and have it, many different feels around it. So it's just kind of getting out of the client what they, some things they do and don't like.
Yeah.
Then I have other clients that would call and they're like, I'm rebranding. I've purchased this business, but I'm changing the name. I need a new logo, but I need to keep the integrity of some of the existing brand. So then that rebrand's slightly different. So there's elements that would be kept for very specific reasons if it's had some goodwill kind of kept with that business or product that they want to carry through, but they want to, become more modern, refresh it. So yeah, usually it is nutting out a creative brief from the client and helping me understand the direction that their business is going in as well is really important. Particularly, they may be changing products, selling from teenagers to, businessmen. That's kind of quite different. So I need to make sure the messaging aligns.
Do you ever, when somebody comes to you and they say, "This is what we want to do, and this is my favourite colour, and I want to include it," do you ever say, "That's great, but for that colour does not work well for this, and this reason," or do you give that feedback back?
Yeah, so I will take that on board because some of those things like colours and sometimes icons, like, people might really like a butterfly. It might be really important to them. So I will take all that on board. And in the concept stage of developing a logo, I will do my explorations with all of that in mind, just so the client can see what that will look like. But then I often, with my own creative, integrity, will then develop my own kind of concept as well. And it may be then explaining for what reason, a particular colour may not be relevant to that business because it doesn't portray that product or the service they're offering. So I do like to explore the client's kind of suggestions, and then I will always, obviously do my own as well.
Yeah, so it'd be like, I'll use dental as an example, and maybe podiatry, when there's unique images that are always going to be related to it. So dentistry is like a tooth, podiatry is like a foot.
Yes.
And as you go through, optometry is an eye. So there's certain businesses that have, iconic images that are always going to suit. So sometimes you've really got to be aware of what other people are doing, so you don't look too close to somebody else's logo and get in trouble for infringement, but also so you're not confusing potential clients, customers, or patients that, hang on, that no, we're not the same business, we are different businesses, and therefore colours must be really important as well. That's right, and different industries do tend to have different colours which are very relevant to those industries. So obviously for different industries that is important, but then in some cases you can really stand out as well. So it just depends really on the client, but through educating and working with them, I do kind of talk through all of that with them as well, and that kind of helps, I find, always give a desired result at the end. Well, I think the first time I used a graphic artist was before I ever met you, and that was the original I think, Pro Arch Podiatry logo. And that was why we didn't end up having a foot in our logo, because we could not find an image of a foot. Feet do not look nice.
No.
They're not pretty things. So the graphic artist at the time said, have you thought about not having a foot? Just not having a foot. I went, that's just unheard of. Nobody doesn't have a foot in their logo.
Yep.
Best thing we ever did was not have a foot. And it just it grew pretty much from there, because feet are hard to make them look good. Teeth look good.
I actually have an amazing orthodontic client, if I could do a bit of a shout out, called Sunbird Orthodontics. And they were a prime example of approaching me, had purchased a business which was under a different name, still an orthodontic business, and they wanted to rebrand. Now, the business they had bought had very, it was like an 80s logo. It was very outdated. The name was outdated. And they totally wiped the board, gone with a really modern name, and they didn't want any of those stereotypical icons, as you were saying, of teeth, smiles, apples. They didn't want to replicate the name of the dentist, toothbrushes, and that was kind of the brief. And Sunbirds was a very relevant icon for them. So it became Sunbird Orthodontics, and it does stand out. Like, it really stands out, because when you look at all the competitors, I mean, not just locally, but anywhere, they do have those very specific icons, and they've been a great client to work with, because it's a really fresh, really modern brand. And from that, a lot of their collateral has been very typical dentist orthodontic style design. So
I think that's
they're
really
an example
clever
of not using those pieces.
But I think that's really clever. Even the use of, say, a sunbird, for example, nobody could turn around and say, well, I hate sunbirds. Nobody hates a sunbird.
Exactly.
It's just one of those things that you see a sunbird, and I think most people, when they see a sunbird, puts a smile on their face.
That's right. And it invokes a happy feeling, which I guess for an orthodontist is also important when, sometimes it's a bit scary, and particularly for their target audience, which may be for kids, or their target audience for females.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of the mothers make the decisions on where their children and when their children need to go to the orthodontist. But because they have kids from such young ages, obviously they don't want it to be a scary place. So it was a great, that was a great client, and a great exercise in branding.
No, and I'll put a link in the show notes too, so people can actually click on it and go and have a look at the logo that you did for them, so they can see just how you don't have to have a specific icon for your business. You can create something different and really stand out from what everybody else is doing. So one of the things, so you said you do this initial brief with people and you go backwards and forwards a couple of times. Is there a limit to how many times you go backwards and forwards, or you will keep going backwards and forwards until everybody is happy?
Obviously there is a limit. It's not forever, but I kind of find after a few initial meetings, it can be easily kind of outlined and identified what people are doing. So I kind of feel, from doing this for 20 odd years, I've worked from small boutique agencies up to large advertising agencies. So I think the experience I've got, but actually, and nationally, and I also worked abroad, gathering my kind of experience, I've kind of developed what I find is a system that is pretty streamlined, because I do find logos can be a never-ending kind of process if you don't kind of really nut out a clear creative brief from the beginning.
I think that's important. So quick question is, like, you've done a bit of work for me. Am I a difficult client to work with, or was I average, or was I simple?
No, you're a good client to work for the reason you are very good at explaining what you like and you don't like. Okay. I do find it difficult when people go like, oh, I'm not sure, just do something and I'll have a look.
Oh, yeah, that must be really hard, because something could mean so many different things.
Exactly, where I kind of find you're quite clear in what you do and don't like. And I think, I guess, from just working together, and we've got developed a rapport, I know how you think and what you like, and also the objectives that you've got for all your different businesses as well.
No, and I think that's something we just said then, that we've built up rapport over a number of years. And I think there's something really important for people to remember, that the relationship they can build with you, with helping their business now or their next business or the next, the businesses for the next 10 or 15 years, is probably something that they will never develop by using somebody online.
Yes.
They won't have that same sort of connection, because online you're one of 1,000 people they're going to deal with in the next 5 years, where with you, you might be only 50 people you deal with in a year.
Yes, that's right. And I kind of feel that I'm almost a bit of a guardian, for people's kind of brand, and keeping that kind of consistent and in line is something that I enjoy doing, and I also like to see my clients benefit from by going out and looking that professional.
No, that's cool. Okay, I have one final question for you, and you know what's come out because I know you listen to the show. It's my Monday morning tip. So it's Monday morning, somebody's thinking, okay, I've just listened to this podcast, I'm about to go into work. Leticia, what is the number one tip you would tell me when I walk into work, I sit at my desk, what should I do when it comes to my brand or my logo, or just getting things in order?
Okay, I would suggest coming in with a clear mind, being focused, and sitting down and actually working out what your objective is and what you need in your logo, whether it's a new logo or whether you're rebranding, evolving a logo you've got. And from there, I also would suggest maybe doing a bit of your own research before contacting a graphic designer, jumping online, like I said, checking out some of your competitors, not just locally, but nationally, globally, and also taking some screenshots or downloading some examples that you like, whether it be a color, a font, a style of illustration, and I'd almost start developing like a bucket of ideas.
Okay.
If you're visual, that might be easy. If you're not, that could be really difficult. So just developing a bit of a verbal kind of idea to contact a graphic designer, say you'd like to meet with them, talk to you about your ideas and the direction that you'd like to go in.
Do you ever do any like logo and brand audits? Do you go in and just have a look at, like for a fee, connect with somebody and say, look, I will just have a look at your website, any printed material you've got, your logo, and just review it and say, okay, these are areas where I think it's not connecting very well, or it looks like this was done 4 years ago, this was done 3 years ago. It's so disorganized.
Yes, Tyson, I have done that before, and it often starts with that initial phone call from a client that just thinks they need a logo. So they come to me and say, okay, I need a logo, or I like my logo, can you just give it a new color, a new font, and then that'll be fine. I've got everything else done. And at that point, I'd like to meet with them or go to their business, and I kind of ask, could you show me your kind of brochures, your stationery, show me all the collateral, what have you got? And from that point, I will sit down and, like you said, have a look at everything. And it's much easier to point out then, that's kind of, that logo's a bit blurry, that's not quite the right color. Here you're using circles, as a design feature, but over here you might be using squares.
Good point.
It's, I can see it's a little bit disconnected. So then I would suggest that I could put together a proposal for them, where I would go away and I would do an option just to redo their logo.
Do you charge for that initial visit?
Yes, I do for clients, I guess, that need that whole package done.
Yeah.
There is like an initial consultation fee. Yes.
Yeah.
And then from there, in that proposal, then I can give them kind of two different areas to look at. And more often than not, once I kind of have raised, the other areas that may need to be addressed, that's kind of where I end up looking after them through quite a journey of developing that logo and then updating all their collateral as we go.
And then they are a client for life.
Yes, they are. Yes, it's the initial stages I do understand can be obviously an initial outlay financially, and it can also take time. Sometimes you don't always hit the nail on the head.
It's sometimes scary too.
Logos. Yeah.
It's scary. Right. Like if you've never had a logo designed, or you've got a logo because you did it yourself, or your 14-year-old son put it together for you as like part of their project at school, and you've been using it for the last 10 years and go, oh, it's got so much meaning behind it. But I think sometimes it's hard to let go of things. It's hard to start something new. And I think everybody thinks, oh, if I get a graphic designer involved, it's going to cost me an absolute arm and a leg to go down this process. But it's nowhere near as expensive what people think. And once you've got it for many, many years. That's
right. And that's, I guess, the money you invest in getting a logo and your branding done with a professional is that has that longevity. And it's not something you have to, update every year, because it should have that professionalism, integrity with it, that it is timeless, although everything can't be timeless. At some point you do need to update, rebrand. That's just natural.
And it's tax deductible, people. So if you have a business, just spend the money. Don't be a tightwad, and spend the money and actually get someone professional to actually have a look at it. So Leticia, I want to thank you for being a guest on It's No Secret with Dr. T. I hope you had fun.
I did. Thank you, Tyson. That was lots of fun. And I feel very honoured, as I said, to be on your show. I'm an avid listener of all your podcasts. They're great. I love all your speakers and topics that they speak about.
I know they're many and varied, and you're my first. Like I said, I haven't heard any other graphic designers on other podcasts. So I'm certain a few people will listen to this and probably end up asking me for your contact details, or they'll contact you directly and go,
yes.
Boy, because I know Jalinda Stella, who was one of my guests, and the episode was, Does My Butt Look Big in This?
Yep.
And a few people listen to that, and Jalinda has been on other people's shows as a result of being a guest on this show.
Great. Yeah. No, if anyone has any other further questions or want to know any other details, of course, contact me. That's no problem.
That would be great. Okay, Leticia, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Tyson. Have an awesome day.
Well, I hope you picked up a few tips listening to Leticia Moran today. Now, I've always known that using a graphic designer was always going to help my business, my brand, my profile, so much more than just using people online. And as Leticia said, it's not that you can't use somebody online or use an online program, but if you're really serious about your business and you want something that's got legs, something that's going to have a bit of longevity and it looks really professional and it ties in with what it is that you're trying to do with your business and the direction you want to take your business, then seriously consider having a graphic designer on speed dial, someone that you can connect with, someone you can sit down with, discuss the future of your business and help them, or have them help you design something really special for your business. So I want to thank Leticia again for coming on. I thought it was great. And like I said, I've known Leticia for a few years now, and I picked up a few things just talking to her today as well. So if you've been liking this podcast, we've been enjoying it for the past year and a half or so, or a little bit longer, please tell your friends about it. Let them know that It's No Secret Dr. T exists. And if you happen to be on your podcast platform, push a couple of buttons and give us a rating and a review. Okay, that's it from me. Look after yourself, look after your family, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.